Hi folks, my name's Chuck Newt with the Winking Pig Barbecue, and today we're doing collard greens. I know some of you love them, some of you hate them. Personally, I never tried collard greens till I was probably 18 or 19 when I was in the Army. Growing up, I had eaten spinach and loved spinach, maybe a little butter or a little vinegar on them. Spinach, but I never had collard greens, mustard greens, turnip greens, any of that kind of stuff other than spinach when I was growing up. But I've grown to love them, and I've kind of made my own little take on collard greens, things that I've never seen with them before. And so why don't you come over here and take a look. I got some different versions of collard greens that I want to show you, and a little education maybe, and we'll go from there. So what we got here is all different kinds of versions of collard greens. I'm going to start right here with the canned version. These, for my purposes, are really not what I want. Notice it says seasoned on here, and I've tried these before, and I just do not like their seasoning. So this is going to find its way into a donation box somewhere for the holidays maybe, and maybe somebody will be glad to have them, but it's not going to be me. So that leaves three versions here. And so we've got fresh chopped collard greens in the bag. We've got frozen chopped collard greens, and we've got fresh collard greens. Now, to me, any one of these three is acceptable. The fresh collard greens right here, they've already been chopped. You know, they're a fairly big chop in my book. And you'll notice also these still have all of the stems that have been chopped right there with them. But these are quite acceptable, and they've been washed prior to me getting them. I'm going to put those right there in the crock pot. And you can put them in the crock pot, you can put them on the stove, it does not matter. I'm going to put those right on in there. Now, one thing you need to know too is that with these stems in here, that's going to increase your cook time considerably, because it takes a long cook to break these stems down. So we're just going to dump that whole thing in here. Now then, the frozen collard greens are a much finer chop, and I have no problem with them. In fact, I actually like the really fine chop personally. I'm not going to use those today because that's not the purpose of the video, because these you just take out, put a little maybe salt water, or maybe some chicken broth or chicken stock in there, and some other flavorings, which we'll get to here in a little bit, and we can go from there. So that's going back into the freezer for now. That's actually what I use with my barbecue business stuff. Now here we have fresh collard greens from the grocery store, and this is how they come. Now come later in the year, say December through maybe February, March, it's a lot harder to get decent looking collard greens from the store. And so, you know, a lot of times I will go for the bag or for the frozen for my personal use, simply because they just don't look so great in the winter time sometimes. And I just won't buy them because the bag looks so much better, and I'll use those. So our next stop with these, we're going over here to the sink, and I'll explain why here in just a second. So follow along. Okay, so what we're doing here, we're going to wash these greens, and the reason being is because I have, straight from the grocery store before, gotten greens that were full of sand, and I did not realize it, and made up a big pot of greens. I mean, even after I cut them, chopped them up myself and everything, I did not see any sand, but I'll tell you what, I sure did find it when I went to eating them. So we're going to wash these off real good. It's only happened to me one time, but trust me, once was enough. And you'll see I'm laying these over here on top of this dish towel. Well, I don't see any sand down in there. That's a good thing. But it never hurts just to give them a little rinse off like that. So now we're going to take our towel, kind of flip it up, and we're going to pat these dry down just a little bit. All right, so now we're headed back over here to the other table. We're going to do some chopping. All right, so we've got our washed greens here. Now then, you have the option of taking these big center stems out of your greens. And it's very simple. You just grab a hold of it and pull right through there like that. And that can help reduce your cooking time. So we're going to do this real quick. Breathe through these. These stems are very fibrous and they take a long cook to break down. You know, they're kind of like maybe broccoli stems, and actually broccoli and collard greens are related to each other. They're both in the cabbage family. So we just pull those out of there like that. If you don't want them, we want those. Stems we'll get rid of. So it's very easy to remove them if that's what you want to do. Sometimes they'll break off. See, we still got quite a bit of water here that didn't quite get patted out of there. It's not going to hurt anything. There we go. Now we're going to take our leaves here. We'll take a bunch of them, like so. Now, and the one advantage to those finely chopped frozen collard greens is that they are very finely chopped and they will cook down a little faster than these whole leaves that we're gonna chop, but they're gonna be more of a rougher chop than what you get from the frozen. And we're just gonna roll these up like so. We're gonna take our knife, go about every inch or so. Doesn't have to be exact. So that gives us a good initial chop on here. Then we're going to kind of turn them sideways a little bit. Again, about an inch. Like so. You might have a few pieces that you miss somewhere, but you know, it's nothing to be too crazy about unless you're like me and kind of anal with it. And there we go. So we got a good chop on those, and we're just going to add those right straight into our pot with our others. And we'll do the same here. We are going to take and we are going to just kind of lay these in here like so. And we're going to roll them just like we did the other ones. Kind of like a big green cigar, maybe. Take and turn a couple of them sideways. There we go. Take a few more Turn sideways. There we are. There you go. We got a good chop on these. We're just gonna move our crock pot over here. And I know this looks like a really massive pot of greens, but you're gonna find out it's not as big as you think it is. Okay. Yep. They're wet. They like to stick to your fingers. Okay. So next, what are we going to do? We're going to add some garlic to this. Just trying to break this bulb open. Get a few cloves. There we go. Maybe 4. I kind of like some garlic in my greens. Kind of smash them a little bit like so. This is going to help us peel them real quick. There's one. Sure it is. This one's fighting me. I got the outer off, but there we go. Okay, so we'll kind of move all this skin over here, like that. Clean off our knife, get skin off the knife. And we don't want those little stem ends. Take this dude. That was our stem end right there. Okay. So all this garlic now goes in with our collard greens. Then we got us a nice yellow onion over here. And we're going to use about a half an onion with this. Throw some, all this is going to be trash up here. I should have maybe got myself a bowl out. onion skin wants to be as difficult as the garlic did. And if I fool around here too long with this onion, it might start making me cry. There we go. So we want about half an onion here. Let's see, how we're gonna go like this first. Let you see what I'm up to. Now, take it like so. There you go. Diced onion. We're going to take our onion, stick it right there in the pot. Now we're going to do this hours. This is actually hours long cook on this. We're talking probably 3 to 4 hours, because we want to make sure that those stems are well broken down in the cook. Now then, 2 more ingredients to go with this. Okay, so we're going to put this whole container of chicken broth into the collard greens here, because you need to have a little bit of liquid. It can be salt water. It can be vegetable stock. Chicken works as good, but either vegetable or chicken stock or broth is what I would use. We're just going to put the whole thing in there. Now, we are not going to add any salt at this time. It will come later, probably. Okay, so there's our whole container. And the reason being is because this particular box of chicken broth has 40% on a serving, 40% of your daily needs. So it's got quite a lot of salt in this. And I do not want to over salt the greens here. Now, I have also found that greens love smoked meats of all kinds. Now here I've got some pulled pork that has not had any barbecue sauce put to it, and I'm going to put that right into this crock pot. It's probably about a pound, maybe a pound and a half of pulled pork there. But I have used in the past, I have used ham or smoked sausage or bacon or a mixture. I've put chunked chicken in with my greens before, and it all works very well, very well. And so there we go. Now then, what are we going to do? We're going to put our lid on this. Okay, so we're going to turn this on high. And you're not going to believe how far this will cook down. It may amaze you. So I'm going to get my things cleaned up, and we'll be back in a little bit. All right, folks, so it's been cooking down, and I mean really, in the literal sense, cooking down. These greens take up about, I'm guessing about a third of the space that they took up originally when I first turned on the crock pot. So you can see that the color has deepened into a darker green. Now then, we want to find out how done our greens are getting. The way I go about it is I look for a piece in here that has a big piece of stem in it, maybe like that one. I will pull that out of there and I will eat it. Now, if you hear crunching, it needs, if it's crunching in your mouth, it needs some more time. And this definitely needs a little more time. I mean, it's not the first one I've tested, but it is cooking down, and it's not as raw as it was originally, but it still needs some more time. And you can see that pulled pork in here as well. It's looking good. Now, you want to find out, does it have, let me get a different spoon. Right back. We want to find out, does it have enough salt? And so we're just going to taste the broth of liquor there. I think it could use just a little bit more. Now I've got some fine sea salt here. And I'm going to put just a teaspoon in, about a teaspoon. Like so. Put that in there. And again, we don't want to go too heavy. Now see, while the broth was salted, the greens were not. So the greens themselves have diluted down the salt from the broth that we originally put in there. Now, one more thing that I'm going to put in here. I'm going to put in a little, maybe a pinch of crushed red pepper, or CRP as I like to call it. There we go, just a little pinch right there. Just to help liven things up just a touch. And you're quite welcome to skip that if you'd like. Another thing that I'm going to add is going to be a little bit of a crack of black pepper here. Fresh black pepper. There we go. And I'm just going to leave it. We're just going to keep on keeping on here. Alright, so we'll be back maybe another hour or so. Give it another shot and see what we think then. Alright folks, well, we're back here with our collard greens. Pull that lid off and whoo, there goes the steam. They are looking good. So, it has now been about pretty close to 5 hours, I guess, since I've put these on. Now, it probably would have been faster if it wasn't in a crock pot and it was in a on the stove. And like I told you before, this certainly can be done on the stove. So, I'm going to find us a good stem like that. And that's hot. So now then, I'm going to get a little bowl of these. Because it's that time. These collard greens are done. As you know, remember what I said. Remember the great big pile of greens we started out with there, and that was one. This was one bag, grocery store bag of Glory collard greens, and plus one bunch of collard greens. Now, if I was going to do all this with bunch collard greens, I probably would have gone with 2 or 3 bunches of fresh collard greens to make this. Okay folks, well, it's time for the payoff here. These collard greens are done, looking good. That pulled pork tastes wonderful in here. Like I said, you can use any smoked meat. Almost make it like jambalaya. Throw whatever kind of meat in here you like, especially smoked meat. These collard greens love the smoked meat. Folks, we want to thank you for watching, and hopefully you found something here that you like. Do me a favor, hit like and subscribe down here. Thanks for watching, and there's more to come.